Do you want me to
I'm
try from
live
here?
right now. I gotta find Ben. Hang on a second. I gotta turn this around. Let's look for Ben. Where are you, Ben? Let's see, Ben Greenfield, my buddy. Alberto's telling me calm down. We're looking for you. Where are you, buddy? Hey guys, in the meantime, while we look for Ben Greenfield, who's probably out hunting a elk or something with his family, we are going to talk about kids. Let's talk about kids for a minute. I was thinking late last night, it was driving me nuts as we look for Ben. I was thinking, all these people that are successful, financially successful in college, whatever, what we end up doing, what people that are successful end up doing is trying to protect their kids and not having them go through the hard times that they went through. And I think that's a mistake. I think if we don't push our kids harder and make them go through more obstacles than we went through, we're doing them a disservice. We gotta train the kids for hard times, because this is going to happen to them. And it's going to be a lot worse during their lives than a little virus where we had to sit inside and watch Netflix. And look, I know, not to minimize what the healthcare workers are going through, unbelievable how they are the front lines, right? The EMTs, all these uniformed services are just killing it for us so that we could sit home and watch Netflix. But for most of us, for 90% of us, it's not that big a deal. And our kids are gonna face something a lot harder than this. There he is. You out hunting a moose? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm hunting a moose. Yeah, I think that falls under the category of sheltering in place.
Nice.
I'm actually hunting meese. I can't just go for one moose, so I'm hunting meese.
You do it with a bow and arrow, or how do you get a mice?
I
Mouse.
use a grenade when I'm hunting for multiple mooses.
Multiple moose. Got it. Oh,
Yeah.
meese is multiple moose.
Yeah.
Got it. It's not multiple mice.
No, mice would not be worth the amount of calories necessary to hunt those down compared to the amount of protein that they give me. I don't have very big mice out here,
And then
but a
what do you
moose I
do?
will take.
You drag the moose back yourself?
You know what? I'm gonna crack that nut when I get to it.
All
I'm
right.
I'm sure I can figure it out. I'll
And
take it back. I'll take it
you're,
back in pieces.
you're gonna stay out there until like through the night or whatever, till you come home with some meat.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of sardines at home, but sardines get boring after a while, so I think a moose will do the trick.
Ah. Hey, I was just talking to the crowd while I was waiting for you.
Yeah.
Um, I've had a tough time verbalizing this over the years, but I gained some clarity last night on this idea that why is it that folks that do well in life then shelter their children? Let's say a successful person went to a public school, they made some money, so then they want to put their kid in a private school. Let's say a successful person struggled or had a job at 13 years old, then they don't make their kid work at 13 years old. And so what ends up happening is the kid doesn't have that skill set that the parent acquired through their life, right? And so we're doing the kids a disservice. What are your thoughts on that?
Uh, I think that in some cases, people who made it through life through the school of hard knocks don't want their children to experience perhaps some of the psychological discomfort or some of the some of the negative aspects of that hard life. And so they kind of have that all or nothing approach that I'm just going to protect my child full on, put them in a private school, feed them with a silver spoon. And I think the perspective is that you can have a child experience hardships and difficulties and physical stressors and even psychological and mental stress without it being negative, right? Without them being, let's say, bullied or sexually abused, or, something that person might have experienced growing up. And so I think that the trick is to approach it from a standpoint of, okay, I'm going to grow a tough skin. I'm going to help my child grow a callus, but doing so through a callus doesn't emotional trauma or PTSD later in life, I think is prudent. This is why I think that a successful parent should expose their children to wilderness survival courses and hunting and sauna sessions and cold pools and breath work and picking up kettlebells that might be heavier than what they want to pick up. But I don't think it involves sending them to public school to get bullied, or putting them in situations where they might they might experience a more negative aspect of stress. So I think it's about approaching things in an intelligent way. But I get it. I get a parent who might have been, just horrifically abused or something like that as a child, wanting to completely protect their child from that. But I think there are other ways to expose a child to hardship that might also at the same time protect them from, some of the issues we face now as a society, some of the evils of humankind.
So I got a couple of comments I'm reading on here. Some people said, well, they got lucky. I assume that comment is referring to the folks that have been successful. But I don't know. I mean, luck, I feel like you make your own luck in life. How do you feel about that, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I forget what the quote is about luck, but luck is really a matter of working hard enough to where you find yourself in the right place at the right time, and the fruits manifest from there. And it might appear like luck, but really it's a matter of you actually, putting yourself into scenarios where you might get, quote, lucky, unquote. So, I think in very few situations does success arise from luck, because if it did, and we had a bunch of people out there who were getting lucky and hadn't worked hard, they wouldn't know what to do when the lucky situation arose and wouldn't be able to take advantage of that.
What is it? Thomas Edison, I think, said most people miss opportunity because it's disguised in overalls, and disguise is hard work, right? And
Yeah, exactly.
so people don't want to do the work in general. And then somebody else wrote here, I'm just looking, that you and I don't look happy.
I'm happy. I'm very happy. I'm out in the sunshine. How can I not be happy? I don't know. Maybe we just have tough demeanors. But no, I don't know, Joe. Are you happy? I'm happy.
I'm happy. I will say, I'm outside of you, I'm the most optimistic person on the planet. I will say the last 2 days has kind of felt like, using the analogy of a tunnel. If you and I were going into a tunnel, there's a moment in time when the light behind us eventually fades to darkness, and the light in front of us hasn't shown its face yet. And I would say right now feels like we're in the dead center, and there's no light in front, there's no light behind, and I'm even seeing that there's a leak in the ceiling of the tunnel where the whole thing might collapse. But still, I feel like we're going to get outside that tunnel in no time. How do you feel about it?
Are you talking about coronavirus?
Yeah,
This whole pandemic?
yeah, pandemic.
Well, yeah, we're gonna. I think that the world might be a little different on the other side of that tunnel, and I'm no conspiracy theorist, but I do think things might change to a certain extent. Travel restrictions, potential for you requiring to have something like a special card, or proof of a required vaccination, or I think that there's going to be some positive change in terms of the way that we care for ourselves from a hygienic standpoint, but and also the way that we connect in a very social way to our community, to our families, because I think many of us are realizing how much we need that and how much we miss that. And I even think, when you look at perhaps the changing world of hygiene and immunity, I think if we all start hand washing and protecting ourselves and going everywhere in masks, we eventually create a community that's actually weakened from an immunological standpoint, because we're supposed to get dirty, we're supposed to get exposed to viruses, we're supposed to get sick. This might be controversial, but people are supposed to die. That's life, right? Like, people who are sick, people who are immunocompromised, yes, they're going to die. We can't save everyone. And if we try to save everyone and protect everyone, ultimately what we create is a weaker human race overall, versus allowing people to die well, right? Allowing us to take care of our loved ones and honor our elders and bring them into our home and care for them there. Like, I would much rather, if I were an old person, I would rather not be on a respirator for a month, slowly dying, and only able to wave through my family through plexiglass or Facebook social media with them my last dying wishes, because the dictation from the higher ups has been to completely protect me and isolate me. And I just think that's an unfavorable scenario. And I think our society is very uncomfortable about death. And we have this outlook on death that we must eliminate it at all costs, when in fact death and suffering and sickness has been part of human evolution since the eons of time. And we're now in a scenario where the combination of social media and the same type of mentality that's putting cushions on playgrounds and creating helicopter parents is doing the same thing with this virus. We're trying to protect and save people at all costs, and I think ultimately it'll create a weaker human race versus a strong and a virally protected human race with an immune system that's been trained to adapt to this, like we've had to adapt to viruses for tens of thousands of years.
I got a few comments I'm reading as you talk, and I agree with you. By the way, I think as a society, we've obviously, as a global society, we just are not willing to accept death. We want to save people at all costs, and certainly if I was on the other side of it, not in a plexiglass container, not only being able to wave at my family, I'd want to be saved. You'd want to be saved, but the reality is maybe the Spartans had it right. There's got to be a few souls that take the beating so that as a group, we all survive and are stronger.
Yeah, I'd rather die honorably, die happy, and die well, and know that the human race is going to be stronger as a result of that. But again, that is very difficult news. We just live in a society where we grasp at life at all costs.
Somebody just said, "Hey, you guys are amazingly hardworking, but don't rule out the fact that you've both had lots of luck." I think that's true. I think I made a lot of my luck. Let me tell you one thing. I'm very lucky I was born to the parents I was born, and I'm sure, Ben, you feel the same way.
Yeah, I think for me personally, as a man of faith, what many attribute to luck, I attribute to just being blessed. Living a life of love and obedience, and living as much as I can an ethical and a moral life. And I think part of it is if you do good, good comes back to you. And I think that's just as important as luck, is just being blessed.
Somebody's asking, do we think handshaking will completely go away? I'm going to shake your hand when I see you, Ben. I might even give you a hug.
Yeah, handshaking, hugging. If they outlaw that, I will rebel. I think the human touch is incredibly important. We know it's important. We know it's how we connect. We know it's how we make oxytocin. We know it's how our electromagnetic fields align. Eventually humans will return to their ancestral roots and rebel against some type of initiative that you can't touch each other. I think that's ridiculous, and that's not something that's going to last.
And then somebody's saying, do we think that we're going to have vaccines for all? Will there eventually be a vaccine out for this thing that we're all going to be taking?
Potentially, there's a lot of talk about a required global vaccination. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I don't like the current way that vaccines are developed, in that you completely shut down the humoral or adaptive immune response. There are smarter ways to introduce antibodies to the body that both spark an innate and a humoral immune response. In many cases, this involves delivery of the virus inactivated using things like skin scraping, etc. And what I would like to see is a lot of the money being used to develop vaccinations that I think could be harmful or shut down the adaptive and humoral response. I would like to see those funds being shifted towards the development of vaccines that allow for our immune systems to function in the way that they're supposed to, and also that do not contain some of the things, some of the harmful ingredients like thimerosal and aluminum, and some of those things that may vaccinate you against the disease, but also create a host of downstream issues that are, just as disruptive as the disease itself in many cases.
Hey, Ben, if we could tell people 3 or 4 things to do at home to make sure they're healthy. You're going to hear from me, burpees and exercise and sweating. What do you recommend?
I've got really four things I've been doing. I have been exercising. We know exercise is fantastic for the immune system. There's a law of diminishing returns. I'm actually not a fan of the people who are doing, using their free time to like run a marathon a day or, do 3 a day workouts. That the inflammatory and the overtraining response that results from that can actually weaken the immune system. It's the reason that Ironman triathletes and Spartan ultra beasters and marathoners do get sick often a few days afterwards. This particularly is a time to be doing more like smart, intense micro workouts, right? So I'm doing like short, intense workouts, brief bouts of training, long walks in the sunshine, but I'm not doing any sufferfest style workouts at this point. I'm walking 15,000 steps a day, and I'm doing a little bit of blood flow restriction training or kettlebell training in the evenings, and then doing some meditation, yoga in the mornings, and then three non-negotiables for me. Me and my twin 12-year-old boys. Every single day, we've been going into the sauna for about anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes, getting a real heavy sweat on. That heat is fantastic for the immune system. The nitric oxide, the heat shock proteins, everything you develop in the heat is fantastic for the immune system. We're doing really focused breath work in there, which is fantastic for the stress and the anxiety response. For our breath work, we're choosing forms of breath work that create a lot of nitric oxide and cause you to retain a lot of CO2. So rather than a lot of Wim Hof style breathing, we're doing a lot of carbon dioxide retention style breathing, something closer to like something Patrick McCown might write about in his book Oxygen Advantage. And then finally, we're always finishing with about anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes in about 32 to 33 degrees of water. So the cold is also fantastic for the immune system response. And I've cut short some of my harder workouts, again, for the reasons I described earlier. And instead I'm doing like quick, like 15 to 30-minute workouts and taking that time I'd normally be doing hard workouts and instead doing more intense breath work and heat and cold with my kids. And I think if there's one thing you can do on a daily basis, it would be to get a deep sweat, get super cold, and do some really good intensive breath work. And literally, we have not skipped a day in 4 weeks, my kids and I. Every day before dinner, we're doing a good hour, once you add it all up, of breath work, heat, and cold.
I got a mountain behind me. If you could see it, I don't know if you could see it, Ben. See that mountain?
It's a little hard to miss, Joe.
You've been on that mountain.
Yeah.
You and I have carried rocks up that mountain. I think your kids have too.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
That's
up there to Shrek's cabin.
That's what the kids have been doing every day. We don't have a sauna. A bunch of people are asking us, what if you don't have a sauna? So that's our sauna right there.
Yeah, you can generate a lot of heat shock proteins and get a sweat on, very similar to a sauna if you just do exercise in the hot weather using layers of clothing. Interestingly, this might sound like kind of a cop-out, but they did just come out with a research study a couple weeks ago showing that like a really hot bath, we're talking like a hot bath where you feel your heart rate's really high and you almost want to get out of the hot bath after a while, that can actually simulate a lot of what sauna gives you as well.
Hey, I got 4 or 5 comments on 5G. This will be the last one. People are saying, what do you guys think about 5G? I know there's that's running around the internet. You got any thoughts there?
Yeah, look, I've seen the videos. I've seen the conspiracy theories about that. Here's the deal. There's some evidence that form of radiation may be somewhat harmful to physiology. Most of it is in vitro cells or in rodent models. None of it's been fleshed out in humans. The problem with 5G is we don't have a lot of research showing it to be harmful. We also don't have a lot of research showing it to be safe. We have zero research showing that it would cause something like susceptibility to coronavirus. And I think some of the concerns about that have been blown way out of proportion, because if you look at the research, most of it's extrapolating from research on 3G and 4G, which actually has been shown to be harmful. But the 5G argument fails if you actually dig into the science. I personally don't use 5G, and I'm glad that I live in an area where I'm not going to have a lot of 5G panels around my house. And the reason for that is because I have yet to see research showing that it's either safe or harmful. So at this point, the jury's still out on 5G if you actually dig into the science.
I'm using, I don't know about you, I'm using smoke signals.
Yeah.
Lot safer. No?
I actually discovered a device that creates zero EMF and allows you to communicate over relatively long distances. You get a paper cup and you put a hole in it and you attach a line as long as you would like to another paper cup, and you can actually communicate very effectively with that with low EMF. So
right.
I'm going to develop, I'm going to call it the iCup device.
Let's do it. We'll go from your house
All
to
right.
my house. What is that, like
All
3,000
right.
miles?
Yep.
All right, buddy. I love you. I'll see you later.
Man, catch you on the flip side, Joe. Stay safe out there.
Bye-bye.
Bye.